But you know, when I started out in the 1960s, nobody was doing any of this. That's why they said I was a pioneer, because there was no metaphysics, there was no New Age. Very few people in the Western world even knew anything about reincarnation. There was no past life therapy, there was none of that. It's hard to believe that now, especially for the younger people, but we lived in a very innocent world, I guess. But there wasn't any of that when I got thrown into this. So I've been at the forefront, I guess you would say, since the beginning. I had no one to teach me how to do this, so I invented my own technique, and that's what I'm teaching all over the world. We call it now quantum healing hypnosis, but I'm doing that all over the world. But in the beginning, it was all past life regression, and I did a lot of that because of the history. I loved the history. And I wrote several of my earlier books dealt with the history. But then things began to happen, and I began to get these other things coming in. See, now it's no longer simple. We hardly ever get normal past lives anymore, but back then that's all it was. But then I began to get these concepts that were coming in that were upsetting my belief system. Now you remember, I don't channel. Everything I write about comes from my hypnosis sessions with clients. And I've had done 45 years of this now with thousands and thousands and thousands of clients. And when many of them keep saying the same thing over and over, you know there has to be something to it. And that's why I'm the reporter, and I'll take bits and pieces of different sessions to put the puzzle together. But I remember one of the first things that came out when we were doing this was the idea of simultaneous time. And you know, I was quite comfortable with reincarnation, linear progression. I had taken many people back through 30 different lifetimes, and I would jump them back by 100-year jumps. That was the way I worked. And then these ideas began coming in, and I would think, oh, wait a minute, I got this all figured out. I know how reincarnation works. I don't want somebody upsetting my belief system here. You know, messing with what I know it. I'm not going to have it changed. But then I got to thinking, if you think that way, you're no better than the church that says, do what we say, believe what we say, and don't ask any questions. That's when I began writing the Convoluted Universe books. And each one has gotten more and more complicated. If you read those, I always say start at the first one because it's simpler as it goes along. And when I got to the end of Convoluted 3, I said, well, I think you've told me everything there is to know. There's nothing else left that you can tell me. And they said, oh, no. When I was working on the book, The Custodians, and having all the information about ETs and UFOs, it was going along on that theme. Then all of a sudden, it began to move into more metaphysical concepts and theories, complicated concepts and theories that was moving away from the subject of UFOs. When that began to happen, I knew I was going to have to finish The Custodians and write a new book. And that's when I started writing Convoluted Universe. And I had going to put all of these complicated theories into that book. The first one was in the 90s, and they've come about through my cases, as I accumulate these cases over years, and then I will put them into the new books. And as the Convoluted Universe series have evolved, each book is becoming more and more complicated. When I wrote the first one, I wasn't sure if people would be able to understand it because it was going away from the normal hypnosis into very complicated theories. I say that Convoluted Universe books are for people who want their minds bent like pretzels. They want challenges. They want something different. When I wrote the first one, I wasn't sure if anybody would be able to understand it. Each book became a little more complicated because I kept getting more and more unusual theories. And when I have enough cases, I would come up with another Convoluted Universe book. But the Convoluted Universe books are for people who want to think, who like challenges, and want their minds bent like pretzels. Some of the fascinating subjects that have been touched upon in the Convoluted Universe books are the mysteries of Earth. I have written in these Convoluted Universe books about parallel dimensions and parallel lives and traveling back and forth between dimensions, and also about the portals. The portals that you can travel through for time travel or going between dimensions, and the windows that you can look through but you can't travel through.